We are delighted to have our speaker with us today, but I'm going to call on Julie Scales to offer our introduction.
Thanks, Dave. I will be very brief. The city manager, Jennifer Bramley, is here with us today. Needless to say, she's been very busy and immediately agreed and actually sounded like she wanted to come to, to the lunch today and to talk about the city of Dunedin post Helene and Milton.
Thank you very much, Julie. I'm told I need to stand over here because we're videotaping. All right. And I say when we videotape, please just shut down the comments on the videotape because social media has been brutal lately. So anyway, thank you for the introduction, Julie. I am Jennifer Bramley, city manager. And I'm actually in my 8th year as city manager. Some of you may recall, who was here during Irma? Yeah. Some of you may recall that I was actually here for 10 days before Irma hit. And so that was very interesting. So everybody thinks that I caused all of this, and I did not. So not my fault. Anyway, so Dave and I were chatting a little bit just before we started lunch. And it's interesting because any hurricane like this, where we got 2 side swipes, right? Not a direct hit from either one of them, but damage, extensive damage. It's like the preparation is like a sprint and the recovery is like a marathon. So I just want to talk a little bit about how long do I have? 45 minutes? No, just kidding. An hour or 2. So we actually in the city of Dunedin, just like all municipalities and counties and the federal government, use something called NIMS. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, good. So I can, if I get something wrong, you won't know. So that's perfect. Yeah, my husband knows National Incident Management System, and it's a uniform system that every local government, federal government, state government conducts, so that all of the terms are common and we approach every problem the same way. And so one of the first things that we do when we go under a state of emergency is that I appoint the incident commander, and the incident commander actually runs the incident. And the incident commander actually trumps me in the day-to-day operation of the incident because he is our subject matter expert. And who is our incident commander in Dunedin? Our fire chief, right? Yes, Jeff Parks. Yeah, Chief Parks. We have several things that we do ahead of the storm, and it's a protocol that we follow every single year. And the first one is in January of every year, the county enters into contracts for debris removal. And then the cities follow suit. We do something called piggyback. So we just jump on their contract. So we all have uniform prices for the debris removal. That's important because I'm going to talk about that quite a bit as far as the aftermath goes. We clean out the storm drain system. We fill up our fuel tanks and we get the city as ready as we can be for any sort of a natural disaster that may come in. You know, we always say it's going to be a hurricane, but it could be any other number of things. NIMS applies to plane crashes. When I was working for the city of Coral Springs in South Florida, we actually had a hot air balloon crash in the city. Yeah. And we heard it coming down, and they asked the fire chief, as you have to do in municipalities, if they could land their aircraft in our city. And he said, well, no. And they said, well, we are. We're coming. So once we go into hurricane warning, I issue a local state of emergency. It's called executive order. And what that does is that the executive order sets aside procurement policies so that I don't have to go through the government procurement, 3 bids, and so on and so forth. We can just say, okay, you're providing what we need, it's you. And all sorts of other things that pertain to the state of emergency itself. Luckily, since Irma, we've been under a hurricane warning several times, but never really had an issue like we had with Helene and with Milton. So it's been a very unusual year. And so at City Hall, we don't refer to Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. We call it Hurricane Hilton. So it's just the 2 together. So we predetermined those contractors via piggyback in January. There are usually about 5 of them. As we went under the hurricane warning, then we notified our one contractor, and I had them meet me at City Hall, that it was a company called DRC, that we would be using DRC as our contractor. Sat down with a gentleman named Evan Futcher, and he said, do you have the assets that you need to deploy into the field at first push. And first push is after, if you have a hit, like we did with Helene, after the sun comes up, you push out into the community, you push in the arterial roadways, you push the paths to the hospital, and those types of things. Make sure there aren't power lines down so that we get our emergency crews out then to do the analysis of the city. And Mr. Future said, yes, they did have everything that we needed, everything that we asked for, they would provide. Well, what we know now is that they provided essentially 3 men in a truck. So after the storm, for a day and a half, mind you. So Hurricane Helene hit Florida in September 26th of 2024. And for those of you who had that kind of storm damage in your homes, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. All of ours go out to you. I can't imagine how heartrending it is to see all of your belongings in the curb. And are there any of you here that went through that? You, sir? And some had minor damage, but we've had a whole number of people who have had some very serious damage west of Alt 19 and Edgewater, and some of the city facilities as well. So the hurricane hit. DRC was on site, the company that we picked for debris removal, on the 3rd, 2 days later. And as I said, one guy in a truck, essentially, and then did not show up again. So they actually reallocated all their resources to the unincorporated areas. And when I called Mr. Future, and it was not a pretty phone call, I can tell you that much. Needless to say, he's not going to get a good reference from us in any way, shape, or form. Regardless, what we didn't know then, and what we know now, is that they would have had to pull out anyway because Hurricane Milton was on the way. And all of those debris removal companies pulled out, and some of them went past the state line because we weren't really sure exactly where it was going. And then we hit Hurricane Milton on Wednesday, October 9th. Out of the two of them, which caused more damage, I would say actually it's very similar. So the first one was damage from the storm surge. Quite a bit of storm surge. David Kelly knows. I see your couch on your front curb. It's a very nice one, by the way. Yeah, it's gone now. Good. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about that. So we then, at that evening in the Emergency Operations Center, which was fully activated, we executed a contract with a company called Crowder Golf. And they're the people that you see right now. And they have assets, and I'll talk a little bit about what we have in the field right now. So, my comments here are gonna probably, be pretty narrow just in terms of debris removal, because that's on everybody's mind, what's going on. Nobody likes the look of it, especially those are their belongings. So, but as I said, unfortunately, it is a marathon and it's certainly not a sprint. DRC then, they did an analysis throughout the city, and along with Tetra Tech, who is our FEMA monitor, and decided that we had just slightly under 100,000 cubic yards of debris. We actually have a little bit more than that, I think. So the debris removal, though, it really is, it's a science. It's in terms of, I know how hard it is for all of you to remove your debris, and you have to put it in 4 piles, right? That's ridiculous. You're up to your knees in water, and we're requiring that you put it in 4 piles, and there's a reason for that. And one thing about debris removal is we're very methodical, and the reason why we're very methodical is that our debris removal throughout the city of Dunedin, from now, in the next 90 days, we anticipate everything will be gone in 90 days. It's going to cost upwards of $9 million. So we need to make sure that we are going to be reimbursed for those funds. It's going to take FEMA probably about 4 or 5 years to reimburse us. So we are paying for that debris removal out of our reserve funds. We had a good reserve that we've been building up over the years coming into this storm, I'm very proud to say. And we're going to need to take reserve out of all funds and essentially pay back that fund when we get the FEMA funds back. And again, for those who've had damage, you're living very much in the here and now. And that's who I'm hearing from day to day, what's happening right now. But we can't afford to do that. We've got to look at the future and continue to look at the future and where we're going with the storm. And I have been through Hurricane Andrew, which was Category 5 in Florida City. It wasn't a direct hit. Dave and I were living in Deerfield Beach at that point. But it was mass devastation, and they made several mistakes, which as an after action, we will not make ourselves here as far as the debris removal goes. So We have, and I'm going to talk about Highlander here in a moment. We have a FEMA monitor. So what happens is that the truck comes up, it picks up with a massive grapple, picks it up, puts it in the truck and brings it over here. And there's a FEMA monitor on a lift. And he's essentially saying, okay, you know, your C&D, which is construction demolition, you can go in our laydown site. So why do we ask for 4 piles? Because they're all going to different places. And if they all get mixed in the truck together, we can't separate them and it's not going to be FEMA eligible and they're not going to take it. So you have to put your white goods, right? Your ovens, your refrigerators in one pile. And, you know, people have been driving through the neighborhoods, right? And picking them up. That's not a bad thing. You know, they're recycling themselves and selling it. And so that gets it out of our laydown site. It gets it out of our trucks. And then there's a construction and a demolition, which is your carpets, your couches, your drywall, you know, those types of things. There's a vegetation, right? So all the trees that came down, that has to be removed. There's hazardous household waste, which goes to one place, and electronics, which goes to another. So that's why we ask that to the maximum extent possible, you try to put it in those different piles. So we can come pick up that pile, put it in the truck and bring it over here. So why Highlander Park? Wildly unpopular decision. So who made that decision? I did. And there was a very good reason for that. So having experienced Hurricane Wilma here, right, as a brand new city manager, one of the things that I insisted on for Hurricane Wilma, was that what? No, Wilma was 2011. Irma, thank you. But was that our laydown site be outside the city? So a laydown site is when you pick it up and you put it someplace else. And it was one trip, right, from where we picked up the debris to the laydown site, which was actually about probably a 15-mile drive from here. So the problem is the laydown site then had a 2-hour wait. So not only are we picking it up here, putting it in the truck, we have the big truck, it gets to the laydown site, then the truck is idling and it's not in use for moving the debris. And that's why Wilma took so long. We didn't make that mistake this time. That laydown site was previously approved by FEMA. That's what we're going to call it, the laydown site. So what happens with that is that we do geotechnical testing, meaning we do soil borings. And this is our beloved Highlander Park, right? So we're not going to do anything to hurt it. But we did the soil borings to see the condition of the soil before we start laying it down. And then we collect the debris and lay it down there. The location was perfect for those people who were most damaged, because it's literally a 5-minute drive from where they're damaged to here. So the number of trips that we can make is exponentially more than if we picked a laydown site outside the city. And especially when Hurricane Milton started approaching, we pulled city staff off every other task that they were doing but stormwater drainage and drainage issues, and put them on removing the debris so that we could get at least what was loose there, put it there in a low pile, which none of it moved, by the way, thank God. So Highlander makes the most sense as far as convenience, as far as monitoring for our residents, for those that, as I said, were the most damaged. So we are going to have everything removed off of Highlander Park within 90 days. And by summertime, by April, by the Highlander games, all of this is just going to be a bad dream. So we'll do the geotechnical on Highlander Park when they're gone. If we have any sort of contamination, which we're not anticipating what we will, because it hasn't been there for very long, then we'll scrape that topsoil, put in more topsoil, do more geotesting, and we'll be back to the races. It will be returned to its previous glorious position, condition that all of you used for parking for the events and made money on, right? So we will be back there at Highlander Park. So we have out in the field right now some of the resources that we have, and we started slowly because we really needed to assess if everybody had it out on the curb, right? How they were going to be able to get through the neighborhoods and so on and so forth. But our current condition right now is we have 9 of those big crowded golf trucks, right? And those are the double trucks with a grapple in the middle. So I don't know if you've seen them at work, but they're pretty impressive. We have 4 state trucks that are arriving today. 2 just arrived, there are 2 more at 4 o'clock. We have 4 city clam trucks that are working on the vegetation. We have 1 roll-off and 1 dump truck as well. So we have assets in the field right now that are 13, 17, so 17 trucks right now, moving about our neighborhoods, and they're picking up speed. So 90 days is a good estimate. I don't want to, overpromise and underdeliver, but it's going very well out there. So those trucks, actually, the ones that arrive from the state, and keep in mind, we have something in the Emergency Operations Center. It's called Web EOC. And it's how we talk to the county and how we talk to all of the other cities as well, as far as what assets that we need. The showers out here, did anybody see the showers out there? That came from the Web EOC. Can we have some showers? But one thing that I've experienced, and this is being recorded, I guess we could use it. But with the Web EOC, sometimes you ask for showers and you get 100 cheeseburgers. I mean, it's just like, who sent this? I don't know. It came through Web EOC. Sometimes maybe it's another city that ordered it or whatever. But we have been asking for those state grapple trucks since the beginning of Hilton, essentially. Since the beginning of the first hurricane, we've been asking for those assets, and we got them today and tomorrow. So very excited about that. You're going to see, a vast increase in the debris removal. That's the good news. The bad news is it's going to pile up over here more. Yeah, but there's always good news where there's bad news, right? Yeah. So the good news is we're going to start removing it from Highlander tomorrow. So that's another truck that we have, and then we're going to move it to Angelo's, which is a landfill. When that fills up, it's another one called Sarnago. We can't use the county landfill. That's only for unincorporated. We've pushed back on that. Hopefully that'll change. We don't know. So today we've removed 24,274 cubic yards of debris, and we're probably going to double or triple that by the time we're done. The what we call the first pass is almost completed, and the first pass is when they go through and pick up all the big stuff. Then with the grapple truck, there's stuff farther in toward the home that they can't get. So our messaging from the city now is going to be, please push it whatever you can back out to the curb. There'll be a second pass. Same trucks come by and pick it all up again. And in areas that we needed, hot spots, we call it, there will be most likely a third pass as well. And as I said, all that should occur in Highlander Park. All the debris should be removed within 90 days. So actually that's 90 days, it's about 85 days, and the clock is ticking. As far as the allocation of city resources at this point, the marathon part of this is that we had some very serious damage in the city. As you may know, the marina is closed until further notice. And we had a meeting with the Marine Advisory Committee the other day, and we had I see that over there. I'm watching you. So the Andrews Chapel there were some issues there in need of repair. The Blashley House, which the city owns, which is next to Weaver, that was damaged. The Weaver Park Pier is out of commission. Our pier is out of commission. And we're hoping that Edgewater Arms comes and gets their pier out of our parking lot. So yes, please do. We're actually talking to them about that right now. It's like, would you like little bits of it one at a time, or would you like all of it? But anyway, we're going to have to work together on that for sure. So normal operations. I mean, our residents expect the community center to be open, the Hale Center to be open, the MLK Center to be open, the parks to be open, and we want them to be open because people need to get back to their lives. But for the fact that we are currently, all of our public works staff are engaged in debris removal or vegetation removal. All of our solid waste, when they're done running their ruts for garbage, they're on vegetation removal. Our parks and recreation maintenance crews, they're on debris removal. So, and I'm spending the vast amount of my time on emergency management as well, as is the deputy city manager, Jorge Quintas, who is, by the way, from Cuba as well. So I'll have to introduce all of you. Yeah. And I can tell you this, whenever I need somebody to really move, I get Jorge mad and I have him go after him. So it works. It's effective for us. But so there's still lots to do, though. There really is. I want to talk about the stormwater issue because you're hearing a lot of that. And I don't read social media. I think that it would be very difficult to do my job if I read social media, but our communications director does call to my attention what I need to see. And there's a lot of discussion on stormwater and drainage. And I think every single city in Pinellas County can do better, and we can do better. We do have standard maintenance procedures for all of our stormwater system, And I will say that there are some hotspot areas that we knew about, North Douglas being one, and Baywood Shores being another, and some areas that flooded that have never flooded before. We put out a rain gauge at our wastewater treatment plant, which some of you may know is off on the coast by the MLK Center. And they recorded between midnight and 2:30 a.m. 14 inches of rain in that. And it was empty when they put it out. And when they went back to check it, it had 14.2 inches of rain. And we cannot store that much stormwater in our city. And so there are things that we need to do moving forward. We are doing a vulnerability assessment for those vulnerable areas, which that will make us eligible for federal grants for drainage and stormwater and any resiliency measures as well. But we have moved North Douglas up ahead of that, and I have a report on my desk on ways that we can steps that we can take to help that particular area. They're at sea level, and their roadway, their street is at sea level. So those of who's in a newer development, a newer house, anybody? 7 years, that's newer. Yeah. So your house was built along a roadway, and when we permitted your house, we made sure that the roadway was 18 inches above the finished floor elevation of your house. And the reason for that is that the storm drainage is now in the swale area along the roadway, and then the house is higher than the roadway. Finished floor elevation, excuse me, is 18 inches above the roadway. I said that, I reversed that. And the reason for that is that we stored stormwater in the roadway. And we can't do that for North Douglas because it's actually lower than the house. It's actually at the same level as the houses. So lots to do. I mean, lots to do in that area. So some takeaways then moving forward. We have had several discussions in the county administrator and city managers group. We met every single day throughout both events to talk about coordinating and things that we need to do, any needs that we had. We need a unified statewide debris management system. So we need, just like the power companies, when the storm is done, we need all those debris haulers coming statewide down to the area that they need the most, just like the power companies. If they can do it, we can do it. And we need to ensure that we do that. And that's really what we're talking about right now as well in that particular group. So as far as the city itself then concerns from here on in, the marina, how do we get that up and running? It is, one of the hearts of our city. We have lots of hearts of our city, but we need to get that up and running. Property values. What's going to happen to property values moving forward after 2 hurricanes back to back? The FEMA 50% rule is also something that everybody is talking about. And that FEMA 50% rule is essentially that if the repairs to your home exceed 50% of the value of the structure, you have to elevate if you're in a floodplain. And so, address the resiliency issues. We're actually really working hard on putting together a forum for next week with Kevin Guthrie, who's the state emergency manager, realtors, insurance companies, and Mike Twitty, the property appraiser, at our city hall to get the answers to some of these questions that everybody's been answered. We're really working hard on that. So I think that's everything. Oh, yeah, one thing about debris removal, and question I get a lot is, what about state roads like Alt 19, Edgewater, Alt 19? It turns into Broadway and then Bayshore and then Alt 19. That's a state responsibility. And you saw the National Guard were there. They were clearing up that roadway. And my understanding is they said they're going to have it done completely within the next couple of days. And then we have some roads like County Road 1, and that's the county's responsibility. And we understand that if they're not here now, they'll be here shortly. So the city removes the local roadways, county roadways, the state removes the state roads. Makes sense, right? Yeah. So anyway, I think that I'll open it up to questions. That's a lot of material right there, but I think it's really, I'm trying to get at what everybody's been asking. Terry? Mhm.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because I think there's so much misinformation out there that I
Right.
want to slap some people.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Well, the first thing I need is one of Tom's margaritas, and then, yeah. Can you bring that for me, please? Yeah. I think actually the best thing that you can do, and we were just talking about this morning with what we call the BRC committee, the Business Residents and City Council, is direct them to the city's website. because 99% of everything that everybody's talking about is on our website. You know, there are questions on permits, there are questions on FEMA rules, there are questions on all just, right. You don't have to answer it, just redirect them to our website. And also, as far as the FEMA 50% rule goes and the any questions on permits, Joey DePasqua is our chief building official. He's the assistant director of community development. He's our floodplain manager. He knows all this. And all he's doing is sitting on the phone, talking to people all day long about all these issues. So, but I think we're hoping that the forum, which we're going to video, will get, you know, that word out there as well. We could share it with all the other communities in the area as well. So thank you for that, Terry. I appreciate it.
You know, especially now with the capitalize on what good you're doing, right?
Mhm.
Because there's so much good. I've been pretty impressed.
Mhm.
And it's hard for you to believe.
Mhm.
But I seriously, city did an amazing job.
Yeah, thank you.
Getting ready. Just doing a really good job.
I agree with
Thank
Terry.
you.
I really do. I think you're doing an endless, tiresome
Yeah.
job. I know you've had your cry moments. And I just think you're awesome.
Thank you.
I really do.
The city is.
Today, I have seen those double trucks.
Yeah.
With the clothing in the middle.
They're everywhere.
I'm like,
Right,
wow.
yeah. Well, you know, I'm really happy with the cooling center that we had. And, you know, I meant to start with this too, and I should have started with this, is how grateful I am to Rotary. You know, particularly this club, you were out there. I mean, a lot of you were out in the field, saw you helping everywhere, you know, all the time. And that's really what it took to help out a lot of these folks. And as talking to David, you know, they still need help, unfortunately, out there. But so at City Hall right now, we have FEMA, we have the Small Business Administration, we have our little permit techs on a table out in the lobby. We have all sorts of public aid agencies, and we're seeing them too. We're seeing these folks come in, and not a lot of them aren't from Dunedin, but that was the deal, you know, when they said that they would stand up this, it's called a multi-agency task force. We have to populate it. We have to keep City Hall open 7 days a week until 7 p.m. And that includes Saturday and Sunday. And it's open, and we have the folks coming in. It's just an amazing thing, the aid that they're getting. They said that they would be gone on the 24th, and they're extending that to the 30th. So, and keeping it open, there are city volunteers doing that too.
Are gonna change.
Mhm.
We have to move forward into the future. And I just want to tell you, I took care of this lady that lives beyond 103, and she used to talk to me, old pioneer lady, about, grew up here. She knew the water, she knew the surges, she knew everything, and she would tell me what was gonna happen.
Right, yeah,
And I thought, oh, she just cuckoo.
right,
But, hello, it did.
right.
The surges are coming higher and bigger, and we're gonna have to move into the future.
They are,
That's it.
yeah, they are for sure.
Mhm.
But I think the back-to-back issue, I think I read in the newspaper that a back-to-back, if you combine the two, it's like 1,000-year storm. You know, last time that happened was 1,000 years ago. Next time will be in 1,000 years from now. Just the back-to-back. You know, one storm is bad enough. Two is, you know, the golf course. I mean, the golf course took a real hit, right, Kathy? And, you know, the problem is the worst storm for the golf course was actually Helene, because that was salt water coming in, you know, from the Gulf, and Milton was actually a little bit better because it was fresh water on the course itself, but for the trees that are down, massive trees, just massive trees. Yeah. So any other questions? Tom, Mayor. Oh, very good question. Very good question. So Celtic Festival will be at Our Lady of Lourdes. Our Lady of Lourdes. Yes, so they've already talked to the church, and it will be relocated to that field that's big enough. Highland Games they won't be a problem. Highland Games will be here. And then several other things, obviously the boat parade. Yeah. So my idea was, let's just have a golf cart parade, and all the golf carts are like, make them like boats, right? Or we could do what City of Seminole does, which they actually have a boat parade and everything's on a trailer, you know? So, yeah, get the pier out of the water. That's right, that way. But no, actually, that's a lot on staff, so we're going to have just the old fashioned Christmas with that one parade. So you're gonna, unfortunately, we bought new barriers for downtown for these events where it's not the big trucks, it's like a barrier that you hit and it flips up and it gets the back tires off and it immobilizes the vehicle. But we don't have time to deploy those for trick or treat, downtown trick or treat, so we're gonna use the big trucks again. Make sure to, no mistakes down that main street, yeah, so, yes, sir.
Question about that 50/50 rule that I read about that. So responsibility of the platform of raising the house is falls on the homeowner, is that correct?
Yes.
And is there any subsidies or any kind of low interest loans that the government is providing for that?
So there is a grant that FEMA provides, but my understanding is it's really, it takes a long time to get it, and yeah,
But the money isn't enough.
No.
For some of the.
no, right. And I think that there's going to be a lot of discussion on that. I'm not the foremost expert on that, to be honest with you. I would encourage you, if you have any questions, to call 727-298-3000 and ask for our chief building official. He's our floodplain manager, and he's forgotten more than I'll ever know about that. But, and that's, one thing as far as all the rumors and comments out there is call our floodplain manager. He's a subject matter expert and he can tell you. And you can see the property appraiser's website. There's a FEMA letter. You look at the FEMA letter. And what I didn't know actually until like 3 days ago was that even if you're not in the floodplain, you have that FEMA letter. So Dave, I have the FEMA letter. Yeah. So, and we're at 41 feet above sea level, I know. Yeah. And we still have flood insurance because of that guy, which now I'm like, thank God. Given, the flood over by New York was like a block away from us at that elevation. Yeah, it's crazy. Kathy? Mhm. Yes.
Or having to, because I know a lot of people there
Mm.
and they're not happy, but some people aren't. We're able to get their sheetrock fixed real fast and stuff like that.
So there is a FEMA letter. It's if you go to the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's website, and it's really easy. You just do a property search and you put in your last name or your address, and your property pops up. And there's a kind of like a table that on the right side, and in the very bottom it says FEMA letter. And the FEMA letter will tell you how much the improvement is, worth essentially in your property before it spurs the 50% rule. So, and you don't have to use that. You can have an appraisal done, but this is a lot for people. It really is, especially those who are in a desperate situation. So, and Harborview Villas is one of those places. A lot of those folks are really struggling. Yeah. Yeah. So, anybody else? Any other questions or anything else that I can answer? Because last time I was here was like 2 years ago or something. The budget. Yeah, the budget. You want to hear about the budget? So, okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. People at it again. Thank you. And all of the city staff, the tremendous job y'all have been doing in a really trying circumstances. So thank you.